Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Return of the Obra Dinn. I decided to turn up the audio externally in the Windows volume mixer. Now it's in a weird position where it's kind of loud for me, but it seems like that probably is the right sound level for you. The first episode did seem a little quiet. At the end of the day, you're in a kind of catch-22 with a game like this, in the sense that hearing the waves of the ocean and the creaking of the ship is going to be the vast majority of all you hear in this game. So it could get fairly annoying, but also you're going to have a very bad time if you just were to say come over here and just mute the whole thing. Like, this would be a fairly awful time too. Like, you wouldn't want that either. We could, like, maybe put it in the middle internally, but then you probably can't hear it, so just leave it at the maximum. There's a weirdness in using a Blue Yeti microphone in that your headphones are plugged into it, but oddly, the audio level seems to be a little bit off. I guess maybe I could adjust. There's a couple dials on the back. I need to look at it. It's been a while since I've seen what those dials do. Um, Maybe I can adjust the monitor feedback, because if I can't hear my voice and it's just totally quiet, then it's like you're deaf, basically, and that's a weird experience. You want to hear some of your own voice when you're speaking, but getting the balance just right can be a nightmare. Anyways, let's continue the game. So Abigail, she's almost certainly going to die in her sleep. Either that or hmm, hmm, hmm. So she didn't die in her sleep. Instead, she was crushed under a mast, being held by a giant octopus thing. And so you can see how the story has gone in a very different direction now. And we have other women and it looks like a children on the ship too. Here we can see there's a lot of people all over the place. Uh, Possibly even more people. You can see water is rushing over, and this guy's been torn in half by something. And this has grabbed something, and this one's stabbing it. So just a giant kraken, a giant octopus. And notice that they're giving you more time than normal to just absorb all that. It's an interesting idea, certainly, to say, hey, we're going to force you to pay attention and spend a certain amount of time looking at something. It feels very like uh, elementary school almost, in the sense that no, you have to actually watch the entire presentation. You can't just skip out in the first 10 minutes. Whereas video games tend to usually let you just skip ahead. Alright, so we know this is Abigail Loscott WITTEREL, labeled as a passenger. And we know she was crushed by rigging. Well done. 3 fates correct. So there might have been a different solution there that was also accepted. The captain's fate was correct, and the first mate's fate was correct. And so now we're filling in 3 lines of the final indicator, and then Feels like at that point they should have unlocked some more power or more time, but you don't really need time. And we have this just up spinning, so I can basically, I think, press the action button anywhere I want to press it, and it will just trigger another scene now that this magical pocket watch has been charged. And it scans the whole room and inverted it. It'd be hard with traditional graphics to cause something like that to happen. And see, everybody is blacked out except for this guy. So it is actually acting as a compass, and now you can see that the clock is working its way in different directions. And when you scan it, it doesn't seem like it goes back in a specific point. Interesting. I can't do anything at the moment. So I have to press A. And then you see the memory / soul of that person. And we follow it. And he now lies here. This memory does. So we basically brought a memory from a previous memory to the present. And I don't think there would be anything else you could do at this point. This game, until you get into the midpoint of the game, is fairly linear. But see, when you scan it normally, the clock does go backwards. So that might be an indicator of when the person died. What time. But I don't know if it really matters that much. This guy has very distinctive tattoos. And you can see he stabbed it. And we can see where he has the kraken. And here's another person trying to stab it. The thing that's weird about this story, and it's only a slight spoiler, here's a pig. Can't get the fate of the pig. Is you would think that the whole story and the whole review would be that the ship was attacked by a kraken. But that's really not the whole event. And see, this probably took place like 5 seconds before, maybe a minute before the captain's wife was crushed. So you're just seeing the events a few seconds, maybe a minute earlier. And this is all chapter 2, the Doom. Who was this and how did they die? We can say he was grabbed. He was struck with hooves, tail, and wing. Well, it was torn apart, certainly we know, by a beast. That much we know. And we now know some more people we've seen. Eventually we will just wear this whole down. And interesting, the first mate and the captain weren't present in this image, so they are just faded out. There is a certain fear, certainly I would have, from a watch that gets its power from seeing the events of people dying. It feels like that would be an evil device of some sort, some kind of cursed object. So in every memory, we've got to find another dead body, and that next dead body is then going to bring it about into the present. These were probably very scripted fly animations. You can definitely tell that Lucas Pope was teaching himself how to do 3D animation in this compared to Papers, Please, which is a stationary 2D game. Like, and he definitely did learn quite a bit, certainly, in his experience. And he did a great job of limiting his scope by making the graphics black and white and unique and artistic, instead of trying to make something that looked like a AAA first-person shooter with the most hyper-realistic graphics possible. It'd be slightly surprising if it turned out that Lucas Pope's next game actually had him going back to flat 2D imagery, but I wouldn't be super surprised. So this looks like an explosion. This guy has a rope tied around him, and he was throwing, I assume, gunpowder. And here we have a guy trying to bring guns up. They certainly weren't ready for a fight. Here we have another guy that's probably falling to his death. They seem to have wrapped the cord over this top string. It's kind of pointless to even show the door if they're going to limit you, but whatever. I bet that stops somebody from wandering around looking for the door if that's all they're interested in. More people. A lot of overlap in those people, though, also, so it's going to be fairly easy. In a funny way, I kind of think I would prefer to play this in LCD mode, but I'm going to respect the artist's decision here. Don't know who this is, but we can say he exploded. That much, is true. And then nice stereo effects of hearing the door on the left side on my headphones. Like, honestly, I feel like this probably would be a better default choice. It is visually more in line with the thematic story that's being told. But I'll stick with Macintosh. I feel like Macintosh probably gets to cheat a little bit because the mixing of white dots next to green dots makes it feel like there are different shades of this green. But it really, like when you're walking here and when you're getting a full black screen, it makes a lot more sense for that to turn full black instead of full green. And I'm not sure if a Macintosh monitor ever actually was fully green. We now can get under here, and we're going to pretty much forget about everything we saw at the beginning for a long time. And let's see, this door is always going to be locked because there's a chair behind it. And in here, there's kind of nothing to do. It's noticeable that there's been some repairs on the ship, but seemingly you almost have to assume that some of the ship also magically was repaired later on, because it looked like to me that the Kraken had broken at least 2 of the 3 masts, and there really wouldn't be an easy way to fix that while on the sea. Of course, they may have some magical way in which they repair ships also. So now we're at the next level of the ship, and you get slightly different audio sound, less of the outside. There you have things that, once again, you could say were potentially pre-bought 3D models of dishes, and that this is just an asset flip game. No reason to really try that. I don't think there's even any achievements in this game. It's kind of nice to have a visual to say, hey, no, that's just locked at the moment. But yeah, you get away from the outside noise. This is what I assume you would call the gunner deck. And that there definitely is an argument here where if you were a real insurance adjuster here, you would just cheat and go, yeah, that guy, whoever that guy is, he was crushed by a cannon. No more investigation needed. You can even see that the wall is broken there. And I assume when we look at this scene, it will open up the door more. The clock does go back to different times, but it doesn't wind back more than a couple of days. So pretty much all the events of the game would have to have taken place over the course of a few days if you assume that the clock is winding back to their exact point of death. It also would have to assume that their death happened a matter of days ago, which that doesn't seem realistic either. Here we have a bloody guy. Unlike the ends, though, you can see that this is man versus beast in its story. It's not a lot of instances of other people killing each other, which it would be fairly hard to keep that story going that way. Because yeah, if the entire crew of the ship was just gone crazy and was murdering each other one by one, eventually people would get wise to that. Alright, who is this person? We have no idea, but we can say he was crushed by a cannon. And at a certain point, this will start to point to just a process of elimination, and it will get more and more difficult to figure out the names of people, particularly since you know that the crew is very large. So we found another dead body. And you can hear those deep drums. This really does feel like he hired an orchestra. But then you have some weirdness with there not really being a copyright on the main game. Just step over him, I guess, now. I don't feel like I could do that before. And then there not being anyone else listed, at least on the main screen. Like, the music we're hearing, either he purchased or he hired an orchestra to do, and you kind of would want to see those people credited, or they would want to see those people credited. We've got another body over here. The doors, I want to show this. I think they close. Yeah, they close when you try to open another door, which seems a little unnecessary because it's not like any of the doors actively block a path to anybody else, but it's a thing. And I don't know if these are supposed to be toilets. I would assume that might be what that is. space would be at a premium in any ship. So having any kind of room at all would be an indicator of some status. But this isn't so much a game where you're going to see too many instances of evidence. Like this necklace or whistle or whatever that is, if I can figure out what that is, in this room might be a hint later on if I see that necklace or whistle around the neck of somebody and I have the book, which, let's see. This is the bosun's room we just saw. And this is the bosun mate's room. So, if I can figure out who was wearing that symbol, then I know that much. Did we look at this one? I don't think we did. There's a danger as this gets bigger and bigger that we'll end up watching the same thing twice. So the Kraken grabbed the cannon and shot him. Interesting. You wouldn't think that that would be the solution, but it does seem like that's exactly what happened. Terrible beast. You can't open doors in the memory section, which there should be some clearer rules around that, certainly. But here we have this guy, and we can maybe assume he's a canon person, but it's kind of hard to assume that any of them work any position because any of them could be on the ship in an area and they just are helping out in an emergency. Okay. Who is this and how did they die? And who is this? How did they die? And I'm not even gonna bother to try and figure it out because I can't really see this person's face. So I'm gonna zoom in on them later and do it that way. Where are you hiding, body? Over here. And so we may have to go into a whole process of going through a memory, through a memory, through a memory. It could be that Lucas Pope really is just a jack of all trades, and as such, they potentially did. I'm gonna say he was shot by a cannon by the beast. And I'm hoping that that's right. I'm hoping that this guy, where did he go? Who's crushed. I'm hoping he's the bald guy. See, and if you're supposed to focus on... This is the bald guy. He's over here. Which one of these got shot? Yeah, I think I made a mistake. I think this is the guy I just marked as being shot, and he was crushed by a cannon. Or crushed by a beast. And who else? Who else is possibly dead? Also, yeah, if you have to recognize people by their voice, that's going to be fairly difficult. I imagine a lot of people would have trouble with that. Hmm. No, this puts a different person labeled crushed by cannon or beast. Now, I know at the end of this game, some people get their pay deducted or don't get insurance payouts because they were doing something bad. Does that inherently mean that if I blame the beast on everything, do I come out with a better ending? I don't think there are different really endings though. Crushed by a loose cannon or crushed by beast. I'm going to say crushed. No, I'm going to say crushed by cannon because the direct thing that crushed him was the cannon, regardless of whether the beast was pulling the cannon towards him. You'd only be crushed by the beast in this instance, where it is directly crushing him. And it's been a while since we've needed to walk out the door. But it's also been a while since we've found any information that's super useful. You have a bloody knife out here. And this just opens a second path. And I assume the two split paths will merge information.
Don't leave me.
Bear up, son. I'll stay with you.
Tell Pete's mother I tried my best.
Aye.
To pull him back, to save him.
You tell her yourself. Brennan! Bring the surgeon's kit!
Well, we know that guy is not Brennan. And I don't know what else we can inherently get from this. Is a guy with a stick and some dead people. Probably an attempted mutiny if I was to guess. Or just some other fight. And then they really like to limit you. So often, I think you get in these situations where we're really just being forced to listen to the audio more than anything else. Because we don't know who these people are. We've seen them before, certainly. But even if you were to be 100% familiar with the entire crew, and you were to tell this tale to a different group of people, strangers, I don't know if much is improved around that idea, or like that you could just name every single person and say, well, this person was here and this person was there and this person was doing that and this person was doing that. I assume we can say he was knifed, but we don't know by who. And this is just a completely different chapter. And that really is how the whole game is going to play, is that we won't get any of the chapters done by themselves until we have run a process of elimination on a lot of characters. That first chapter is a standalone experience, and then very possibly the next chapter, and that's a great instance where the door should have just been left open. And I'm a little surprised some of the doors don't just disappear and are broken as reality changes around you. Or at least your perception of reality. Maybe none of this is actually being changed. See, even now, like, I have it on Macintosh, but even now, this looks black and white more than green. But when you go to that full screen, and when it's just all black, or all dark, it's in all green like that, that's really weird. Well, this guy was clubbed. And then this guy's running this way. And this guy's been stabbed in the back and he's crawling this way. Yeah, if this is stock nautical music, Lucas Pope found a really, really good stock nautical music source. And if this was composed, like, there's just too many musical instruments playing it for me to believe that he looped it and he had like a synthesizer where he played one part of the song with like a electric piano, and then he used the synthesizer to pretend like it was a drum. You could do that. You could certainly loop a song and play every single part, but music is way more collaborative than that. Right. See, what would be really nice here is if we could label some of these things as unknown person A, unknown person B, unknown person C. But they do let you do that if you wanted to just generically say, I figured out that in nautical terms, officers all look like this, or they all wear hats, and then passengers all look weird, and stewards all look this way, and top men all look this way, and seamen look all this way. But honestly, I don't think you gain much. Like, looking at this guy, I couldn't tell you if he was a topman or seaman or steward or what. I imagine he's not an officer, but that's about as far as I can go. Where it would be more beneficial to say this is unknown assailant 1, and then when you figure out who that person is, you can move forward to automatically label them in multiple places. Some of this music is fairly repetitive. And some of this walking around is fairly repetitive too, in the sense that you really are just getting led around by the nose like a cow, just to stretch out the length of the game, which honestly I don't think this game is short enough for that to really have been an issue. What's that metallic sound? Oh, he's loading up a gun. So somebody was trying to commit mutiny, and this guy got shot in the head. And you can see they've kind of locked his face in a lot of ways, and they seem to like to do that a lot. And see this door, it's not this guy who's been stabbed. And there's blood over here, so somebody was bleeding even at that. And you can't zoom in on the character yet. We could zoom in on that guy, but not the victim, which is weird. And see, this would be a good point where the mutineer wouldn't deserve the insurance payout. Although, at a certain point, it might just be easier to wipe your hands clean of the whole story and not slander anyone and just say, all right, we'll pay out to everybody and be done with the accursed mess. So he was shot with a gun by an unknown attacker. Yeah. That's pretty much all you could do. I could say this probably is an officer, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know if your process of elimination is improved by having incomplete and possibly bad information. So if I was to label something as label a person as a steward and they weren't a steward, I've just made life harder for myself. And then we're now taking the long way around and scanning this next person to die. In a weird way, this almost implies that at no point was there even a minute between deaths. Or I guess perhaps more accurately, if we hit the table of contents, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 moments between deaths. And everything else seems to imply that somebody died right after somebody else died. All right. And the body is just going to hang there. And we'll just have to keep playing. Him being completely hanging off the edge of it, he's going to have a hard time to be identified. There is a level of brutality that usually accompanied pirate ships, or this isn't a pirate ship, this is an actual like registered royal vessel, but or at least it seems like it is. So to see such a massive breakdown in control, here's I think the captain. So did the captain shoot? No, this lady shot him. But does that really help anything? Like, you bring up him and you just see the picture of the captain and you know who he is. But yeah, one has to assume that in this world, that where women passengers and mutiny and krakens all exist, then then there's probably just also assume that there was a lack of loyalty and a lack of See, something like this, Zungi Sathi as Indian, that might be a female. There's only 3 midshipmen, so we could eliminate that list fairly easily. That'd be nice. I don't think we get any other pictures, or if we do get some other pictures, there's not a lot of them, whereas more pictures probably would have been helpful. So this could be Abigail Whitwell. No, I can put unknown passenger there, but that's probably not what you even want to do. You probably just want to leave it as unknown until we can figure it out later, because unknown passenger might actually be the right answer, and we may accidentally decide that we might accidentally get some correct answers even though we don't really deserve them, if that's the case. It's a little shocking that they can even get 61 bodies on this ship, although it seems like some of them escaped. Clearly the boat is gone, so maybe not everybody died. We know at least one person survived because of the book, that being actually that's something we could go right back to the beginning of this. There was a character named Evan which I would have assumed that would have meant that there was it Edward Spratt? No, Henry Evans, surgeon. Okay. Yeah, Henry Evans and Morocco. So we actually know Henry Evans is alive. The surgeon is alive. I have no idea. I mean, you might guess that that's Henry Evans there. Yeah, so we can't fill in that information yet until we see the surgeon. Right. Well, that's a bit of a shame. But we know he's alive, so once we do see him...
Move quick.
A lot of sound effects here. So either this is Paul or this is Paul. And he was stabbed by somebody as they were taking the last boats. And oddly, before there was a black wall this direction, but now it's not there. And it seems like maybe your cone of vision is getting larger and larger. And at a certain point, it might be a case where somebody apparently was in the bathroom. Yeah, there could be all kinds of little secrets around and things you just won't see on those first 20 seconds or 30 seconds that they give you. Okay. How many polls do we have? The scrolling system here is kind of bad. It would probably be better if you could alphabetize or toggle through a couple different subcategories. Paul Moss, first mate steward. Do we have any other Pauls? And we know he was killed with a sword, not knifed, by an unknown attacker. And there's just kind of too many people. And see, the captain and the first mate are here. They're back in that scene. Then we need to come over here and find this dead body. At this point, you are kind of just doing the same thing over and over again. Like you're getting the evidence first, and then you're having to apply the deductive reasoning and eliminate the possibilities as you get more and more evidence. It's a lot like trying to install a program in Linux that has like a lot of dependencies. Dependencies are just other programs at specific versions that are needed. And if you go past the mainstream as far as trying to install some app that's not used much, you can often run into a situation where it says, okay, we have 4,000 conflicts here, and we need to resolve these 4,000 dependencies. But if we upgrade these 4,000 apps, which often are not apps like a finished product app, but just a helper library of code, if we don't resolve those if we try to resolve those 4,000, then we'll have to install 12,000 other apps, and sometimes the solution there is just to install all 12,000 of those newer versions and just update everything. Sometimes the solution is actually we can't do that because there's a different application that's already installed that says you can't upgrade to this new version, otherwise this currently installed app won't work. And that's very different compared to like Windows, where all the helper libraries are just built into the programs and then reinstalled multiple times. Modern Windows has tried to adjust some of that, but it still mostly is redundant installs.
We didn't. It left with the store. Captain came up from the hold. Said he chased it off. You should rest.
So it seems the captain did something to get the storm to leave and the Kraken to leave. In most cases, I would argue that Linux's system of having its packages more separate and having the dependency system is the smarter system, but much like many of the instances of Linux, the smarter system is not always the most practical or well adopted system. So here you can see the captains coming up from the hold. Here we can see this guy is coming out of a room, but does that mean that's the room they belong to? And did I miss something, or is this just timing? I think it's just timing. Yeah. So we may have to see close to 40 or 50 dead bodies before we can realize who this is. And see, here's the problem. If somebody's in the officer's mess, does that mean anything at all? Like, I don't even know how that guy died. His arm was torn off. Like, does this mean this guy's an officer because he has a hat? Or that's really where the glossary would come into place. So let's see, if we go X to flip the book this way, and then captain, mate, bosuns, military officer in charge of weapons and military procedures, administrative official. See, what you would need here, and what they're not giving you, is let's see. Bleeding to death doesn't seem like an option. Torn apart by a beast. I think that's about as much as I can get. But yeah, it would make a lot of sense to just take somebody to the officers' quarters as a place to deal with them if they're bleeding. And like, so at this point, is this where the game is telling me that four Wayward souls disappeared during the events of this chapter. Their fates are cataloged here. And then we can't really tell you if they are alive in a certain place or if just they're unknown. And unknown is just the default solution. So, yeah. I don't know if there's anything you grab from that information. That did open up a path down this way where we're clearly going to find more bodies. And interesting, there's a cow that we're going to scan. And there's almost certainly one more level below this. This looks like the door closes fast enough that it's gonna close on you. This seems like a storage food pantry. This looks like a workshop. Bodies will appear, I'm sure. Now you're getting very creaky sound effects down on this floor. And you're going to have more and more beds. And so people that are piled up in these bunker-like areas are probably less likely to be identifiable compared to somebody that has a labeled room. Obviously, the captain's quarters contain the captain. Odd angles on some of these rooms. Not sure if there's reason why you'd build your ship like that instead of just going with your standard square. Then you have little peepholes that, like, you have a wall on this side, then you have peepholes this way. It seems almost as if this wall had been taken down so people could sneak through here and peephole. But I don't see a reason why. It's not like you're going to find anybody or fire a gun that way. That's a weird way to build your ship, and feels very much like a video game concession more than something else. And then back here we've got the dead body, so they clearly wanted you to find it. Find these outer sections. And then this section definitely ends. I suppose what this could be is this could be a water break, like a barrier if a hole sprung a leak. But that seems kind of redundant, because if a hole sprung a leak and somebody would have to look through the peephole to see that a hole had sprung a leak, and then they'd have to wander all the way around to work on the leak and patch it. Where it would be easier just to have all the cabins against the walls like they are here, and then if a hole sprung, then they could at that point close the door and maybe seal off the room. Let's see. Up here, it is nice to see that we're not going to end up with just hundreds upon hundreds of bodies in a row on the main area. I'm not really sure how you could have changed a game like this in a different way so that there would be different areas. If anything, that probably would just make the games more difficult by keeping everything fairly tight and understandable. That means things are less wandering around. Where there are some parallels to point and click adventure type games, and I could see if this was more like a traditional point and click adventure game, you would very easily end up wandering around a whole bunch of different areas, and that wandering would not really create a better experience. It would just make the game longer. And this game is fairly long as we see it already. Alright, so we've got 2 bodies for the next time. And let's see, if we go over here to the chapter, loose cargo, we've done nothing with. Bitter cold, we've done nothing with. Murder, we've done nothing with. The calling, we've done nothing with. Unholy captives, we've done nothing with. Soldiers of the sea, we've done nothing with. The doom, we have started, but all we found was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. And so we've definitely not finished that part. The bargain we won't ever see until we've done everything else. The escape we've started and we've seen everybody. As far as the escape, it's just a matter now of trying to figure out through a process of elimination who the person is. And see, probably at this point is complicated enough to start labeling things. Let's see. Because there's... Well, we're going to have to make some assumptions. We're going to have to make some jumps. Otherwise, we're just never going to get where we need to get. But it could also be a while. And see, the end... We still don't really know who this person is. But once we figure it out, we can label it in several different places. Still don't really know who this person is, and maybe that is in part because I've just not been willing to make a bunch of guesstimates. But yeah, so far so good. Of course, this could be a while. Like we're an hour and 45 minutes into the game, and we've done the first tutorial mission. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people do potentially buy this game and play it for the first section, and then they just kind of lose focus and don't make it to the end right about now, because there's a lot being thrown at you and a lot of subtle hints that you have to keep your eyes open for if you're going to actually solve it. And inherently, for a game that was almost always being sold for $20 with the Steam 2-hour gameplay refund, no question asked policy, I could see a lot of people also refunding a game like this, where an hour and a half in, people just saying, okay, I was able to do that first tutorial section, but I'm totally lost at this point. But me personally, I'm not lost yet. But there's still a lot of facts we need to collect. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and give me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.